Hi, this is Peter Voorhees from Atrium Health, Levine Cancer Institute, and the Wake Forest University School of Medicine. I think that these long-term results, demonstrate that there is a sizable minority of patients, specifically 33% of the patients treated with cilta-cel in the study that have long-term disease control, with this therapy. And what's remarkable about that, it's just with a single cilta-cel infusion. So just with that single infusion, we're showing that at 5 years and beyond, 33% of patients are alive and disease-free, which is really unprecedented in this patient population. We also show that the median overall survival now with longer follow-up is just over 60 months or 5 years, which is also an unprecedented result in this patient population. MRD, or minimal residual disease testing, is a modality, where we look at the bone marrow aspirates and, look at very high sensitivity at whether there's residual disease left behind. So in a group of so as I mentioned before, 33% of the patients that were treated with cilta-cel, are alive and disease-free at the 5-year mark. One of the institutions that contributed the largest number of patients who are disease-free did serial MRD testing on an annual basis in this group of patients that achieved at least a stringent complete response. They also did annual PET-CT imaging on these patients. And what's really quite remarkable, of those 12 patients from that institution, all of them were MRD negative at 10 to the minus 6th level of sensitivity at 5 years and beyond. And not only that, on the serial PET-CT imaging, all of those patients were also in a complete metabolic response. So does that suggest potential cure? I think at this point it's hard to say, but I think no one would argue that this is the most impressive results that we've seen in this group of patients. Incidence of secondary primary malignancies has been previously reported. The last time we took a look at that particular issue was 2 years ago at the ASCO annual meeting. With these additional 2 years of median follow-up, we saw 2 new secondary primary malignancies. One was an adenocarcinoma of the lung, and the other one was a squamous cell carcinoma of the anus, both of which were not felt to be related to cilta-cel. I do think it's important to note that with these additional 2 years of follow-up, we did not see any new secondary hematologic malignancy. So we haven't seen, since the last look at the data, any new myelodysplastic syndrome cases, acute myeloid leukemia, or CAR T-cell lymphomas. I think with regards to the 2 additional solid tumors that we saw, I go back to the CARTITUDE-4 data, which was a randomized study that looked at cilta-cel versus standard of care therapy for patients with 1 to 3 prior lines of therapy with myeloma. And there, the rates of secondary solid tumors between the 2 arms of the study were not significantly different. So I do think that there is an increased risk of secondary hematologic malignancies with the use of CAR T-cell therapy in general, including cilta-cel, but we're not seeing a clear signal with regards to solid tumors. Yeah, I think as far as additional safety data are concerned, we saw no new cases of Parkinsonism. We did not see any new cases of other delayed neurotoxicities that have us concerned. So specifically, we didn't see any new cases of cranial nerve palsies. And we only saw 3 grade 3 infections, with this additional follow-up. So I think in general, with longer term follow-up, we're not seeing these new safety signals emerging, which is encouraging.